Blog Talk Radio.
Thank you for listening to Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. This is your host, Wayne Bradley. Thank you, everybody, for listening in this evening. I got a couple special guests this evening, and one of the guests is Randy Pullen, who's the chairman of the Arizona GOP, and he's my first guest tonight, and he's on the show now, so I'm going to bring him on. Randy?
Yeah, hi, how are you doing?
All right, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Well, I've been a busy week, to say the least, with healthcare passing on Sunday night.
Right. I could definitely imagine. How's it in Arizona? How are people down there feeling about what's going on right now with this bill?
I think in general there's a lot of angry and upset Arizona voters right now. It's even the Arizona Republic, which is not a Republican paper, was pretty distraught. So the bottom line is that's going to cost Arizona $1 billion a year starting in 2012, and that means we have to go out and find the money at the state level to pay for Medicaid.
Right. That's what I was going to ask. That affects Medicaid that way. Is your state considering the lawsuit with the other attorney generals? Like in Michigan, I know that we've joined the lawsuit. Is Arizona going in that direction?
Arizona is very interested. Our problem is we have a Democrat attorney general who's not too interested in pursuing it, a Republican governor who's very interested in pursuing it. So we have a little technical problem at the state level we're going to have to resolve. But I think we'll probably get there because this Democrat attorney general wants to run for governor in Arizona. So he's got to take a side here pretty quick. Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll have to. The heat will be on the attorney general. Then, obviously, if the governor wants to move forward with something like that, is there in Michigan? We're going to actually be owing a balloon payment to the government within 10 years of close to, I think it was $500 billion. Is that something something like Arizona might be facing with that kind of out of the blue payment, or is it just something that's going to immediately start affecting Arizona?
What? You're telling me that Stupak didn't get that negotiated away for you guys up there? I'm shocked.
Yeah, he sold himself out for pretty cheap. I heard it was only a private air hangar for like $700,000 up there. So yeah, he sold out Michigan pretty cheap for that. So
yeah.
My goodness.
You know, considering what they got in Louisiana, what they got in Nebraska, I guess from his position he should have asked for more.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he totally sold out for very cheap there. So, you guys got a lot of interesting races going on in Arizona right now. I guess the one that's been attracting the most attention nationally would be J.D. Hayworth versus John McCain. What are you talking to people down there? What are you hearing, and what are people thinking about the candidates?
Well, since John McCain got a real opponent last month, it's changed immensely. It went from being a pretty sleepy, low interest to a very, very highly interested people across the country calling me, talking to me about what's going on. It went from they did some initial polling in January, which showed Senator McCain was up 22 points over J.D. Hayworth if he were to jump into the race, and Rasmussen released numbers last week which showed that J.D. has narrowed that to 7 points from 22. So it's now a real race. It's going to get much more heated than it is. Senator McCain has already spent, it's estimated, $1 million on advertisements at this point in time. So, and he lost 15 points. So it's going to be a very heated race in Arizona. And I think what we're seeing is what you're seeing across the country, which is a general dissatisfaction with incumbents across the country. And I think that Senator McCain has been there for 24 years. I think that's what we're really seeing is a just frustration on the part of voters here in Arizona and across the country, really, with what's going on in Washington, D.C., with all incumbents.
In particular, it appears that Hayworth is kind of like attacking John's his conservatism And I guess over the years, that's always been a target with some people because he does work on both sides of the aisle. Do you think that this time around that might actually might cost him some voters?
Well, I think it's a real problem. I mean, first of all, we have McCain-Feingold, which came out, beginning of this decade, which
Right.
was a disaster, and the Supreme Court has basically eviscerated it. And John McCain just kind of said, oh well, I guess that's the way it goes. And then we had the huge battle over illegal immigration and amnesty in Arizona, which we had the Kennedy-McCain bill in 2007, which was turned away. In the state of Arizona, Republicans especially were very incensed over the entire illegal immigration issue and trying to legalize them and give them citizenship.
Right.
So those items have played not well for Senator McCain. Senator McCain also took a position on cap and trade, which I'm sure you're aware of. He was also opposed to drilling in Anwar. And now we're starting to see that the whole issue of global warming is now turning into a fiasco for the UN and the scientists who are supporting that. And so, it's issues like that. It causes people to wonder, obviously, where Senator McCain is on some of these important issues in our times. So that's been part of his dilemma that he's had to carry, and I think that goes back to what we see in general, which is the general frustration of incumbents in terms of what they've been doing in Washington. Clearly, that's been JD's approach at this point, has been to talk about the fact that Senator McCain has been there for 24 years and it's time for a change. That would probably sum up his campaign at this point. And obviously, it's down to 7 points, so that's
Right.
had, I'd say, some impact. On the other side, John McCain has been working very, very hard in Arizona. He's been all over the state. He's just amazing, the energy that he has in terms of his coverage across the state. So he's working very, very hard. So it's going to be a very tough primary election, and the election date is August 24th. And it's certainly making news here in Arizona.
Right, exactly, it is. As far as immigration reform there and the way he voted for, right now, what would be the best thing that you think that would help improve immigration laws down there and help Arizona, obviously, with that?
Well, first of all, the border is a war zone. I mean, we just had the consulate worker and her husband who were killed in Juarez earlier this month, and we have like running gun battles between drug dealers and coyotes up and down the freeways here. We've had one of the highest kidnap. We have in the United States the highest kidnap level that exists. So I mean, we've got a lot of problems down here in the state that come from the illegal activity that's going on. So we have to basically. There's no question about it. We need to seal up the border. We could do it. It's obvious we can do it, but there's no will in Washington to do that, and that's the real problem. So our concern here is that without getting the border sealed up, that the Obama administration, with the help of Republican Lindsey Graham from North Carolina, believe it or not, are going to try to pass a comprehensive bill that will basically legalize all those that are here without getting the border sealed up. And then we have a huge problem because that sends a message down south to Mexico and other Central American countries that, in fact, if you can get in the United States, you can get legalized. And that's a real problem because it's just going to attract more of them. It's going to cause a bigger problem than we already have. So until they can solve the border problem and get that sealed up, not only for that issue, but, I mean, obviously we need to have the border under control with respect to other issues like terrorism. And we know for a fact, and it's not denied by the government, that we know that we've had terrorists come across our border in Arizona. So that in itself is a major issue.
Right. I know you've done a lot of work with the immigration reform. How hard would it be to, like, I live in Michigan. I have a border with Canada. How hard would it be to for the fence? I mean, it's in certain areas, but how hard is it to actually complete this fence, and how long do you think that would take?
Well, that's an interesting question, because when you hear Democrats talk about a fence, they always say, well, if you build a 50-foot fence, you'll just get a Mexican with a 51-foot ladder who will just climb up and go over the fence anyway. Well, the problem is that it's a lot easier to track down a illegal alien who's carrying a 51-foot ladder than it is to catch one who's carrying nothing.
Right.
So, and that's the issue. I mean, fences do work. It's been proven around the world that when you properly install a fence, that it works. They've installed new fencing along portions of the border, and it has worked well. And what it's done is basically forced the illegals, the coyotes, the drug dealers to move to other areas of the border in order to get across. So it does work. They are not going to put any more fence in. We know that President Obama has already said that that program has come to an end and no more is coming. So essentially, we still have an unsecured border.
Exactly. All right. I had a couple questions. I did post a couple questions on Twitter, like I was telling you before. I've got about 16,000 people following me here, and I had a.
And you only got 2 questions? Oh, come on.
I mean, so far, I've got people sending me stuff in my personal inbox here, and I've got one that says if. Okay, they said if they want to ask if the Arizona governor Brewer would sue, however the attorney general won't because he's a Dem. Can they proceed anyway with the health care issue? Basically saying if the attorney general doesn't want to move forward, can the governor supersede that and push forward anyway?
Well, she can. Obviously, she needs to. In Arizona, we've hired counsel other than the attorney general in past situations. We had a situation in Arizona where the courts were requiring that we teach bilingual education in our schools, which has been proven doesn't work very well, and immersion works much better. And essentially, the attorney general wouldn't deal with the issue because it's a Democrat issue, and the superintendent of public instruction hired his own lawyers and basically went to court and won in the Supreme Court on that issue. So there's a precedent for doing it. The governor is looking at her options and considering how to oppose this health care bill.
Okay. And
I guess it's not a bill anymore. It's now the law of the land.
Right. Yeah, it's the law of the land. Another question someone asked me is, why did you push so hard to get an 18% sales tax referral on the ballot?
Well, that's a good question. It's not first of all, let me just clarify. It's not 18% in the sense that we're charging 18 cents on every purchase. It's a 1 cent sales tax increase, which basically overall is an 18% increase in the tax rate. So that's what that really represents. So it's a 1 penny tax increase on the on sales, which excludes food. So it's just only on and services. So it's only on other tangible goods. And she's pushing for that because they've cut $2 billion out of basically a $10 billion budget over the last 2 years, and they want to give the people the option of basically voting about a $900 million tax increase or another $900 million in tax in spending cuts. So they're giving that to the voters, and the way they look at it is that they've cut everything out that they possibly can. Anything they cut from here on out will really be impacting a lot of programs. So they just wanted to make sure that that's what, in fact, Arizonans wanted.
Okay, all right.
And it was supported by a majority of Republican legislators as well.
Okay.
To put it on the ballot.
I got an interesting question here for you. It says, is it a valid concept to peacefully make Mexico our next state? Hey, I'm giving you the questions I'm getting here.
To do what?
Is it a valid concept to peacefully make Mexico our next state?
Well, that's an interesting question. I
Yeah,
guess we had that opportunity back in the 1840s when we were basically in Mexico City and Veracruz, and basically people don't realize it, but 3/5 of Mexico became part of the United States from the Mexican-American War. Good question. Clearly their economy is tied to our economy to a huge degree, and it's going to continue to be that way. It's just a fact of life. But there are so many issues in Mexico, I just don't know if we're in a position, even if we had that opportunity, if we could deal with it. There's 120 million people in Mexico now, so it's not a small state.
Wouldn't that be a small takeover whatsoever?
No, that would not be a small takeover. So I don't look for that to happen any time in the near future.
Right. I'm just shooting out the questions here. Your business, you have a strong business background, and I guess I should ask you this because our president obviously does not get it. What can we do more to create jobs and stimulate growth as far as jobs in this country right now?
Well, I'll tell you the number one thing we could do at the local level across the country, and it's true here in Arizona and it's true across the country, is essentially the bank regulators have told banks not to make loans to small businesses. They basically have been curtailed from loaning money. So there's, first of all, if you had a loan, let's say you had a working line of credit, a small business, a $10 million business, you had a working line of credit, you had your line of credit taken away. Well, if you have your line of credit taken away so you can't finance inventories and other things like that, well, the bottom line is you're going to do less sales, and so your sales are going to drop off accordingly. So the number one thing they can do is banks can't even make good loans. I mean, they're curtailed from even doing what are obviously good loans because of the regulators. They need to reverse that position and allow banks to begin making loans to small businesses, which, as you know as well as I do, 80% of the U.S. economy is based on small businesses.
All right, exactly. All right. I'm looking in on your governor race. I was the sheriff. You guys have a famous sheriff down there. I'm familiar with him for different. I've heard of him for different reasons, but he's considering running for governor. Have you talked to him about it?
I have talked to him, and he's told me that he is actually seriously considering it. And he would be a very formidable candidate if he got in it. He's probably one of the best fundraising politicians we have in Arizona. I think he has over $2 million or at least close to that in his campaign fund for sheriff, and I mean that could be switched over to the governor's race. So I know he is seriously looking at it. I know his wife is egging him on. She would like to see him run. So that's about all I know, though. We'll have to wait and see what he decides to do.
Have to keep an eye on that. What do you think what has been your take on the effect of the Tea Parties? How's that been in Arizona and across the country?
Well, we're similar. We have a lot of different Tea Party groups here, and I try to talk to as many of them as I possibly can, and not just at rallies. I go to some of the rallies, but I actually tend to go to more of their organizational meetings and talk to them when they're planning things and try to understand what motivates them. And it's very strong in Arizona. I think it's going to play a significant role in the elections this year in Arizona. And if anybody thinks that Tea Parties aren't an important part of our election process now, they just aren't paying very close attention, because they are very, very vocal, and they're very organized, and they have some very good people in them, and people that have never been involved in politics before, that are now motivated and taking an interest.
Right. I've been invited and been to a few Tea Party events myself, and I noticed over the weekend with all the things that were going on there, it seemed like they really a lot of the media tried to highlight some of the negatives that have gone on at that, over the weekend. But in general, I think the Tea Parties have been a lot more responsible for waking people up more than anything else. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I think that they unfortunately bad things have happened, and they tend to focus on those a little bit. And that's unfortunate because that's not the vast majority of it. They're very organized, very conscious of what they're doing, and they're not the radicals. They're just very concerned Americans who want to see things different than the way they're going. So it's unfortunate they focused on those things, but that's the way it is. I mean, that's what makes news. That's what sells newspapers. That's what gets people to listen to radio or TV shows. So that's what they focus on.
That's all right. Well, I think that I have covered everything I've wanted to talk to you about, sir. I really, is there any, can you want to give us the website address for the Arizona GOP or give us any special announcements that are coming up soon?
Well, I want to tell you that, I'm also the treasurer of the Republican National Committee, and we did an internet money bomb, and we've raised literally in 48 hours raised over $1 million of people who are just incensed over what's going on in Washington, D.C., and that money is going to go to good use. It's going to go into our congressional races across the country to unseat Democrats who need to go. So that's very, very positive result. Our goal was basically to do about 1/4 of that is what we were looking for. And it's just way exceeded what our expectations were. So as a treasurer of the Republican National Committee, thanks to all of you out there who went on to the RNC website and donated.
Thank you. I got that email that first night, and it's been every day has gotten bigger and bigger. So the website address is the RNC.org website.
Well, it's pretty easy. It's GOP.org.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Randy. Again, this show is recorded, so we'll be sending this out through Twitter, so people will definitely hear the message and continue to follow up on you. So I'm also going to put you out there on Twitter because I see you on Twitter, and you might get some new followers here after tonight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on, and God bless you. You have a good evening.
God bless and take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Randy Pullen, the GOP chairman from Arizona, on the show. I want to thank him again for coming on. I've got my second guest on the line here, and I'm going to take his call. I've got author Andre Harper on the line. I'm going to take the call. Hold on. Andre.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Wayne. What's good?
Thanks for joining me tonight.
No problem. It is an honor and a pleasure.
That's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show, man. How things been going since CPAC?
Things have been going very, very well. CPAC opened a lot of doors for me, and I'm walking through them.
Good. That's good. How are you feeling after this weekend here?
Well, I'm not surprised. He made a point that this is something he wanted, and they set out to do it. No stone unturned, no arm couldn't be twisted hard enough, no deal wasn't bad enough or severe enough that they wouldn't make. So, give the devil his due.
Right, that's right. Now, for people that are listening on the show, if you didn't catch it on Twitter, Andre Harper he's an author, and he has a book called Political Emancipation: The Observations of a Black Man Who Rejected Liberal Indoctrination. Very interesting book. And like I said, you want to give them your website address, Andre, so they can also check it out. I've been plugging it all afternoon on here on Twitter, so give them the address to the website.
My website is www.andreharper.com, AndreHarper. And make sure you check out the website. And if you sign up for my newsletter, you get a free chapter of the book, a free excerpt, and just to get a little taste.
Cool. Now, before we really get into the book, Can you just give us some background? If you read the book, you get all the background information you need to know. Can you give the listeners just some a background of yourself, and then give us what made you want to write the book and how you got to that point?
Well, I never set out to be an author. 2 years ago, if you told me I would have, published a book and been out promoting it, I would have thought you was on some crack or something. During the Obama campaign, I had some issues with him. I just didn't understand, a lot of his positions. And whenever I voiced concerns to people, they treated me real bad. So in order to vent, I just started to write and journal. And a good friend of mine said, hey, man, this is some good stuff. America really needs to hear this perspective. And he's like, you ought to turn it into a book. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't think so. But, I felt compelled, and then that was kind of the genesis of how it turned into a book. And 2 years later, it took me, 2 years to write and research, and that's a product.
I've been reading the book, and there was a couple things that a few things that stuck out to me here. And you went to Florida A&M, right?
I did. I am a proud graduate of Florida A&M.
All right. And it was during that time that you realized, it was during the campaign, I believe it was, when was it Gore was running?
Yep,
you
Al
said
Gore.
that Jesse Jackson came down to the school and kind of and reversed the cycle. And tell us what happened. Tell me exactly what happened, and we'll go on from there.
Well, ironically, I attended the blackest school in America, 13,000 black students, the largest historically black college in the country. And I was working on the Al Gore campaign, and, like most blacks, I was born a Democrat, and I thought my skin meant that I had to be a Democrat. And I was working on the campaign, and I had a chance meeting with Jesse Jackson. He kind of assembled a lot of student leaders, and I was kind of among them. And I thought it would be a strategy session on how to take out those evil, racist Republicans. And so I was, zealous. And I wrote a chapter in my book, and it's called Jesse Jackson Recruited Me into the GOP, and I explained this. But what I did, what I found was Jesse didn't tell me any type of policy. It was all rhetoric. Stay out of the bushes. And then he said, if George Bush gets elected, he's going to make sure that we become slaves again. And I was like, what the heck? And it just didn't make any sense. And I asked him questions, and it just more and more garbage. And then I started noticing how when Democrats got in front of white folks, they talked policy. When they got in front of Hispanics, they talked policy. When they got in front of Jews, they talked policy. But when they got in front of me, it was always some garbage about racism this and racism that and disparities this and Republicans hate blacks. And I just started to feel very insulted. I started doing my homework on Democrats and Republicans and realized that I was in the wrong camp.
Right. And do you think that now that's something that's interesting that you said that when they talked to other groups, all they did, they talked policy, but when they came to the African American constituency, they talked more divisiveness. And that's the thing that always sticks out to me is that you seldom hear Republicans injecting race into the argument. It is usually going to be the liberals and the Democrats. And like you said,
well, that's correct. And let me tell you why. I first of all, I inherently believe that liberals and Democrats believe that they are superior to blacks. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't come at us like that. It's simply put. They would respect us and respect our intellect as they do everyone else. But then they don't do this because they don't bring up race because they love blacks or because they are somewhat sympathetic of slavery in our position here in America and our story. They do that simply to intimidate conservatives and score political points. They don't care anything that about us, and that slavery is such a sensitive topic, and we've been so mistreated in this country for generations now. They're not sympathetic to that. They just want to score points and win offices, and they do it on our backs.
Yeah, they've mastered the art, I believe, of throwing a bone to the community, and we're happy with that. Do you, with your book, have you found throughout the African American community, have they been critical of you, or have they been receptive? What's been so far? What's been the response amongst your peers? I can only imagine being in the situation I'm in. What's been the response amongst your peers?
Well, I mean, it's always, you're always met with some type of resistance. You know what I mean? And I've been dealing with that for a while, but I just stick to the facts. First of all, first thing they want to do is doubt your blackness, or challenge your blackness. And I say, well, fine, you come up with the criteria for being black, and then I guarantee you I'll be blacker than you every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And so, I've lived in the projects. I've graduated from a black school. I spent $50,000 at a black school, and a lot of these Uncle Tom so-called Negro leaders have never even set foot on the HBCU. So I tell them to go to hell with that. And the thing is funny, I've done a lot of research. I'm a proud black man. I'm proud. I read Booker T, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X. Those are my heroes. Those are my political thought leaders. And I can quote Garvey and Malcolm X. I don't just wear the T-shirts and hats. I know what they stood for. And so, they don't want to challenge me intellectually. And then I say, well, tell me this. Help me out, since I'm such a sellout to my race. Can you tell me what I owe the Democrats? Can you tell me what I owe liberals? And can you tell me where to find it? And none of these Uncle Toms can find. They can never say nothing. And so the fact is, I don't back down from them. I know what I'm talking about. I'm the freest man in America because I'm not a slave to any political party or ideology. I wake up, I believe what I believe, and just like Hammer, they can't touch me.
I hear you, man. I hear you. All right. What have you been doing to promote the book lately? What have been some of your most recent things you've been doing to promote the book, and where have you? I saw on your website that you're doing a radio show now, also.
Yeah, I am a regular contributor to the Dana Lash show, and she's out of St. Louis. And you can find you can find the information on my website. You can listen online to me, St. Louis, once a week. Also, I've done several other media outlets. I've done some speaking events. I've been getting out and about and just doing a lot of promotional things, speaking here and there.
How was the Frederick Douglass the conference, man? I'm mad I didn't get down there for that, man. I had a business emergency that I couldn't attend to. How was the conference in D.C. this weekend?
It was great. I was only there Saturday, but it was a good turnout. This was the first time they did it, and I think it's got a lot of potential. Met some great people. And so looking forward to, being more engaged in that and really getting the word out. I mean, you touched on something earlier about how blacks respond to black Republicans, and the first thing is distrust. The first thing is they want to challenge you. But all that is Willie Lynch tactics. That is the indoctrination that Democrats continue to benefit from generation after generation. I'm sure you don't read the Willie Lynch letter time after time. And Willie Lynch said, if you want to control your slaves, listen to me. This will work for 300 years. You turn the light-skinned ones against the against the dark-skins. You turn the old against the young. You turn the women against the men. You always spread distrust. So, our good, compassionate, liberal Democrat brothers and sisters prove just how compassionate they are when a black person that's a Republican come around, and they show their true colors, their true indoctrination, and their true slave mentality when one of us walk in a room. See, I'm who I am, and so I don't change when I find out somebody's a Democrat. But on the other hand, when they find out I'm a Republican, that's when they flip the script and show just how big of a slave they really are.
Right. Yeah. I don't have a personal issue with any Democrats, obviously, but again, that's usually not the same way when they find out that you're a Republican, and like you said, it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Let's see here. I got something here for you. See if I got some questions online here for you. What days of the week are you doing the show in St. Louis?
Oh, every Wednesday. You can catch me at 3:15 Central, 4:15 Eastern.
Okay.
So you can catch me, and I have a link on my website. So.
And you gotta get your Twitter followers up, man. I went and checked you out on Twitter today. What's your Twitter address? So if people are listening out there, they can follow you on Twitter, and I'll bump you on there too.
Okay, my Twitter is linked to my website. Honestly, I'm just getting started with the Twitter thing. I don't quite get it just yet. My wife has been on me to get on Twitter.
You gotta get your Twitter life up, man. That's how that's how all the followers out here they keep up with you. You know, as far as knowing what you're doing, as far as marketing your book. It's a great way to get more people familiar with it. So I'll definitely be sending some people your way. Definitely.
Okay, well, my wife is listening to this, Wayne, so you should get me hollered at tonight. So thanks a lot, bro.
Oh, no problem.
She's been on me to get on this website, so now she really gonna tell me a new one.
Does she know that you were supposed to be on the show last week, Andre?
Nah, see, we were supposed to keep that between me and you.
Well, man, that's what's up, man. I appreciate you for coming on tonight, man. What we're gonna do is in a couple of weeks, I want to bring you back on to fully promote the book some more. We're gonna get your Twitter life up so we can promote you some more out here, and I hope to bring you to the city and bring you to Detroit soon too, so we can help, like I said, promote the book. What I was telling someone earlier, the point is that they need to see more young African Americans in different lights, because the only thing they see is, from a political standpoint, is only Democrats. And outside of that, the only thing they can aspire to are athletes and entertainers. So I think it's really important that we connect the dots between conservatives and the African American community. I think someone like yourself is a great example of that. Obviously, like I said, role model, someone that kids, the people in our community should want to look up to. So,
see, Wayne, you're right, and we could take it a step further. What I've learned, and this is from being black 33 years, Democrats try to sell us the idea of socialism and don't worry, we'll give you a check and we'll give you this, we'll give you that. But see, most of us, we don't want to live our lives in the projects. We see people on TV, we see Nancy Pelosi, she's worth, millions and millions of dollars. We see Oprah, we see all these people living the big life, and we want that too. And a lot of us can have that. We don't have to live in the squalor that they give us. And the way that we can do that is the same way they did it. It's from education, sacrifice, delayed gratification, saving, and we can, a lot of us can live those lives. I started from nothing, and I got a great life, and it wasn't easy. And, there was many nights, in college, I slept on my cousin's sofa for my first semester in college. I mean, it was nights I was so hungry. Only reason I ate was because I worked at Wendy's, 3 or 4 nights a week. And I would bring home salads and extra hamburgers and stuff like that. That's how I made it. But,
right.
That's life. Everybody's life is a little different. But we don't have to accept that. And so they try to tell us, well, global warming and you need to drive a Prius. You find me one brother that's going to trade in his 80 cut for a Prius. It ain't going down like that. And so when we can understand that, and we can do much better if we have to learn our history. We learn that our people crossed the Middle Passage. We created universities. We were millionaires. We lived in Madam C.J. Walker lived in the same neighborhood as the Rockefellers at the turn of the 20th century. That's what we got in our blood. We don't have no welfare and food stamps in our blood. And so when I go out promoting my book and I'm telling black kids that, they start looking at the Democrats like, well, you ain't tell me all that. Right. You ain't tell me this, because I know my history and I'm proud and I refuse to accept public assistance because I'm better than that and my people are better than that. So if that makes me Uncle Tom, knowing my history and being proud of who I am, then those liberals can go to hell, as far as I'm concerned, because they hate me because I love me and I know who I am.
Right.
And the problem is they try to make you and me out to be the enemies of the community, but then they put, what's the kid, half a brick, quarter brick, okay. Talking about selling dope, they try to make them guys out to be the heroes, and that's not the case.
Right.
Well,
that's what I said. You really
Gucci
don't have
Gucci Mane and all them kind of things. We don't go around talking like that, but they try to make Gucci Mane out to be a hero.
Right. And that's like I said. It's not. As a young African American, we really, especially for the young males, there's not a lot of. Like I said, it's a very narrow idea of what your role model is and who you think is cool and who you're trying to emulate. And like I said, it's either someone that's performing on the mic or someone that's shooting a jump shot. So, again, I think that's why it's important for people like yourself, like myself, to go out into our communities and show them something besides that. Give them another option. Not to say that that's not cool or whatever, but it gives you another option, something else besides that. So.
And one more thing, man, we have to make sure we understand because, they always try to make this thing about parties. They've taught us to think through the funnel of, I can't say this because I'm a Democrat, or I can't say this because I'm a Republican. Anybody who know me, all my frat brothers, all my friends, everybody know I've never promoted the Republican Party. Everybody know where I stand with my views, but I've never gone out saying you need to be a Republican, unlike Democrats saying, you need to join a team. And that's fine. What I do is say, I promote freedom. I promote freedom to live your life as you want. You don't have to be a Republican, but a part of my Republican views is I'm going to protect your freedom. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to support candidates who going to make sure you're safe at night and make sure your kids have the opportunity to live their life how they want. And that means they can choose to be a corporate CEO or they can choose to live under a bridge. It's up to them. And that's the freedom I'm fighting for. I'm not fighting for you to live your life in bondage, waiting for a food stamp, waiting for the first so you can make it by the next 28 days. I don't do that, and I'm not fighting for that. So we have to make sure we're fighting for them to have the opportunity to live prosperous lives, not live on food stamps and hoping one day you might get your GED. We better than that.
Right. And I think that's what they really, that's what they sell people on is the fact because, people who are disenfranchised or something, the first thing they say is, well, Republicans are trying to take stuff from somebody. Well, it's not that they're taking something that belongs to you. They're trying to take something to improve the way our government is run, but also to encourage people to not rely on that. I think that's really a big issue in our community is that we have become reliant upon the government for a lot of things, and we've always. It goes back, even with slavery, we had a relationship with government, but it's to the point now where where we're indebted to them. They want us to stay that way. It's almost politically, they would have nothing to gain if our community didn't prosper, and they rather keep preaching about trying to help us out and through these tough times, but they don't want to really see us prosper. That's my personal opinion.
Well, that's the thing, and you're right. And another thing is what really helped me evolve was I got rid of those labels like disenfranchised, minority, was underserved, all those bullcrap names those labels. See, when you accept, it's mental, and the Democrats know that when they get in their little strategy rooms, powwow on how to campaign and how to penetrate our brains, they know that. They know a certain taglines or certain things that penetrate your mind and cause you to react in a certain way. And so when you accept that, well, I'm underserved, I'm black, which equals, they won't say black is equal to underserved, but that's what they mean. They're not going to say it, but we all know what they mean. And so when I started to reject those labels and say, I'm not underserved, I'm not a minority, I'm a child of God, which means I'm a majority, I'm in the majority because I'm a child of God. I don't depend on the government. I depend on God. I get my strength from God, not the government. And so when I started rejecting all those labels and I told those liberals to go to hell, my life started getting blessed exponentially because I don't accept that. And I tell kids when I go out and talk, don't accept those labels. You are not underserved. You are not less than anybody. You are not minority mean less than. And I said, you ain't less than nobody. Stand on your feet, black man, like Marcus Garvey said, up you mighty race. And those are the things I say. And those the Uncle Tom civil rights sellout Negroes hate when I start talking like that. because they hated Garvey back in the day, just like because Garvey wouldn't live on his knees like W.E.B. and a lot of those guys, and they hate black guys like me today who say, stand up, black man, stand on your feet.
That's right. Hey, man, I think I got a call here for you, man. I'm gonna take this call. You want to take it?
Let's do it.
All right. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Caller.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. I wanted to. This is Chris from Florida again.
Hey, Chris, how you
What
doing?
part of Florida, Chris?
I'm in the Jacksonville area.
Duval.
I'm actually in the other side. I'm over by Green Cove area.
Oh, okay. I'm a native Floridian, so. But go ahead. What's your question?
Okay, my question is, what do you think about the then Senator Obama, what he said, what he did now with the health care?
Well, you know, if you understand, you know, him, if you do your research and you read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, you know, and you understand when he said change, the type of change he really meant. I mean, he wasn't a liar. You know, he was fairly transparent.
Yeah.
With his ideas, with what he wanted to do. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm
Right.
surprised it took him so long because he had a super majority. The only reason it took him so long is because the American people started to raise up and really start to understand that what he really meant when he said fundamental change. I don't think a lot of people took him at his word like I did.
Sure woke a lot of people up, though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, this is what he campaigned on.
Right. And then, so would you, if you were like, say, some people out there, would you let go of the idea or the notion of his impeachment maybe later on?
No, I mean, I wouldn't support impeaching him because he's doing what he campaigned on. I mean, if he
right, because he's not really telling an untruth or breaking the law, right?
No, he's pushing an agenda that, you know, like he said, you know, elections have consequences, and people didn't really vet the guy, and the media didn't vet him, and they didn't want you to vet him. As soon as you really started when people vetted him, like Hannity and those guys, they tried to attack the journalists instead of attacking the candidates. So, you know, it's a bitter pill that we're going to swallow, but I think America is really going to learn a lot. I think America is really learning just who these people are, and they're not who they claim to be, as I laid out in my book. So it's a learning lesson. Let's just hope.
Right, because Pelosi got a private jet, and she spent $101,000 on booze. You know, and they're just.
Did you enjoy it? Because you paid for it. Did you get some of that booze?
No.
Yeah.
You know, so. I mean, I hope it does do the trick, because I think they're putting on the charm, I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Well, people, I mean, you got to realize, you know, how they do business. You got to go to the library and get Rules for Radicals, and it'll all be cleared up, and you'll understand them much better. But, I mean, when they campaign, what sounds better? I'm here to help. The government should help you all. And we're going to make sure the government treats everybody fair, versus somebody saying, you know what, we're going to make sure you have opportunity, and you do hard work, you can have anything you want, but, you know, I'm not going to take care of you. And that's kind of the deal. You know, with conservatives, we say, well, you know, I'm not going to give you a fish, I'll give you a pole. But you're going to have to go out there and fish. And the liberals say, well, we'll give you all the fish you want. Just when you finish that fish, go stand in line and we'll give you another. So
yeah. Well, I do think that there's a lot of ideas that need to be abandoned, probably, more than likely, like the impeachment thing, because it's taking your eye off of your focus and what you really need to say.
It's not going to happen. The bottom line is that he didn't. He's not lying. He came and told you what he was going to do, and he's doing it. So, not unless there's something really diabolical in those 2,700 pages, Chris, they're not going to be doing that anytime soon. So.
Right, but you see what I'm saying, though? You need to stay focused on on our agenda at hand, not let these things take us off course.
That's what we need to focus on.
What I tell people, and I tell my Republican friends, is we have to offer a clear objective. I mean, it's liberty versus tyranny. You know, it's freedom versus oppression. And America is starting to wake up, and a lot of people realize, you know what? I don't want this. I don't want to go down this road. This isn't the fundamental change that I thought he was talking about. This isn't what I wanted. And it's going to take. I mean, it's going to take some time, and the Republicans are going to have to lay out a alternative view for the country. And it's just going to be tough. But I think America really needs this exercise, and I just hope the Republic can survive it.
Yeah, but you always got to remember America's been through so much. If you really do your history, and we revered, and we're strong. So I mean, you got to give us that much, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Constitution has been designed to be able to withstand these types of things. I mean, this is going to test the faith and the mettle of our country. But you know, the Constitution has stood the test of time. And that's why these people hate it so much. So we got to stay focused on defending the Constitution. Learn your Constitution, read it, understand it. That's the only thing that's going to save us.
Thanks for calling in tonight, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome, y'all.
You have a good evening, all right?
You guys have a good one, too.
All right. Talk to you later, brother.
Yes, sir.
Andre.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got another question here. I'm getting off of Twitter, man. That's why you got to get your Twitter life up, man.
I got to get it, man. I'm going to get in the game, bro.
It says, what is your suggestion for conservatives to successfully improve both opportunities and alliances with multiple races?
Well, what I would say is, you know, what attracted me to the Republican Party and you know, voicing my conservatism is opportunity. You know, and it was people cross. You know, I grew up in South Florida in the 80s, and I remember kids who was fresh off the boat. We used to pick at them mercilessly about how they dressed and their hair and this and that. Fast forward to 2010, a lot of these kids who we used to pick on are PhDs, they're lawyers, they're doctors, and what have you. A lot of my friends in the jailhouse, in the graveyard. You know, and they came here for opportunity, not to get on public assistance. And so we have to sell the blessings of liberty, you know. We have to debunk the lies of the left. The left wants blacks and other colors to believe the Republicans don't want y'all to have nothing. That's the furthest thing from the truth. I know a lot of conservatives, I know a lot of Republicans, and there's one thing we all can agree on is we hate paying taxes. Right. And paying taxes, when taxes go up, when you got to incarcerate people, you got to feed them, you got to do that. We would rather people pull their own weight so our taxes can go down. The left, on the other hand, needs people to get in the wagon and not pull their weight. So they're the ones who really don't want you to have nothing. So we have to stress opportunity. We have to stress education. We have to stress ownership and freedom. I mean, we got to get back to the basics, and we have to offer a clear contrast with the people on the left.
One thing I did, we were talking about solutions earlier. The one thing, what do you think about the fact that the Republicans right now, from the political standpoint of it, are pretty much not getting involved at all with the health care debate? I mean, we both probably, you know, like I said, I'm from Detroit, you're from down there in the bottom. And we know there's people out here that need health care help. What do you think about the way that they're doing it, where they're not offering any alternatives to what the debate was, and do you think that's a good strategy moving forward?
Well, I think that's not correct. The Republicans have offered a lot of strategies. I mean, you got to realize, I mean, I worked in the Senate for 6 years, and basically, if you don't have the majority, you don't bring nothing on the floor. And
right.
They've pushed their legislation, you know, they've pushed their ideas in the public arena as far as talk shows and this and that, but you know, they outside of Fox News and, you know, Sean Hannity and some of the other outlets, they haven't really have the opportunity to be heard.
Right.
And so, you know, Joe Biden can come on TV and say, well, y'all don't stand for nothing. And Obama says, well, y'all ain't brought me no ideas. And they have. And then we saw that when Obama put on his press show and the Republican congressman was putting his foot on Obama behind with all of those ideas that they had been saying for the last year but nobody listened. I mean, the Republicans have offered private sector solutions, healthcare savings accounts, and I don't know all this stuff in detail, across the border, this and that. They even said, if it's 30 million people that need to be covered, let's just use stimulus money and cover
those 30 million, and that call it a day instead of
right. But this is beyond coverage. This was the power grab that they've been after since Woodrow Wilson and FDR. I mean, this is they hired thousands of new IRS people. Now the IRS is going to be in charge of enforcing health care. They've got fines and taxes on companies, tanning beds, and on and on and on, taking over student loans. This had nothing to do with health care coverage. This was just a mask in order for them to fulfill the dreams of FDR and those uber leftist radicals. So don't get it twisted, man. This is not about health care. This is just this is a way they exploited the poor and people's anxiety about health care in order to push their agenda. Don't get it twisted.
All right. Man, it's been good having you on the show. Let's promote the book a little bit more here. Give them the title, give them your website address, and give them your Twitter address, even though we're going to get you up and running here.
Make sure you go check out my website, www.andreharper.com. And that's where you can learn about my book, Political Emancipation, Observations of a Black Man Who Rejected Liberal Indoctrination. And when you get on there, make sure you sign up for my newsletter. And so that way you can get I send out a publication or a piece of literature every week, just kind of explaining different things going on in the world. I'm not going to spam you, and I'm not going to sell you information. So make sure you check that out, man. Just giving you the real raw dog without a bag, as only I can do. Make sure you sign up for that, and you get an excerpt of the book. You got about 16 pages. A hardcore black man that's not taking no crap from the left, that's not putting up with their lies, and who's standing on his own feet and encouraging black people to get off the plantation, stand on your own too, and get out here and get this money and get off that welfare.
There you go. All right, well, Andre, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know we'll have you back on again. Thanks a lot, man. God bless you. It was a pleasure meeting you at CPAC, and we're gonna be linking up again real soon, okay?
All right, Wayne. Hey, bro, I appreciate it, man. And to your audience, man, conservative is cool. I know because I'm conservative, and I know because I'm cool. So, Wayne, keep doing your thing, bro. I'm gonna holler at you a little later.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for coming on. God bless you, bro.
All right, you too, man. Talk to you later.
All right. All right. I appreciate that, man. I really do. That was one of the highlights of me being down at CPAC was meeting Andre, and we were talking. It's a pleasure to help promote people that are we're on the same page as far as uplifting our community, not letting Democrats and liberals take us for granted here. And let's see. Oh man, James, if you were listening to that show, I wish you would have called in so Andre could have got on you right there. We got this guy who's always following on Twitter, just always talking bad about me here. But you should have listened in. If you weren't listening, hope you listened in. James Turk at att.net. Call next time so me and Andre somebody could jump on you because you're always talking bad about me on here on Twitter. Thanks, Chris, for calling in. I'm glad you liked the show. Thanks for everyone that was listening tonight that sent questions for either Andre or for Randy Pullen. I want to say thank you for Randy for taking time out of his busy schedule to call in and do the show. He was in a meeting and he left out to come and do the show, so I really appreciate that. And everybody listening in, again, go to this website, conservativescool.com. That's where you can listen to all my radio shows on there, and also go to any of the Ustream videos I've done. I appreciate everyone that listens to the show and goes to the website. Again, that's conservativescool.com. Log in and become a member. You'll get email updates and also be able to blog on the site. So I appreciate it. Next week's show, we've got on Fix Michigan Monday, I've got the Senator from Michigan, Mike Bishop. And next Wednesday I'll have Michael Johns on the show. So we've got a lot of people. Now, that's on the 30th. So we got a lot of people coming up, some interesting people. So I really appreciate everybody that's listening. Again, Conservative is Cool Talk Radio. This is your host, Wayne Bradley. Thanks for checking in. I'm going off there here in 10 seconds. Give me a call next week. I thank you again for listening. God bless you, and good night.